Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this community meeting. My name is Stephanie Scherf, and I'm a co-director and the CEO here at the Center for Arts at the Armory. So I just want to say thank you to Anthony Tron, who was playing that beautiful flamenco guitar music. You can check out Anthony's website, Flamenco Boston, and Anthony was just here in our Feet Keep the Beat festival, and he also played at our gala, not this year, but the year before. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Somerville Media Center, who's in the house filming tonight. We are standing in solidarity with the Media Center. Please check out the recent article in the Cambridge Day to find out what's going on. We have made our spaces available to the Media Center and also to MAPS because they are going to be forced out by the city of Somerville as of September 1 and will not have a location. So on an as-needed basis, we'll be providing our spaces to both the Media Center and MAPS. Okay. Let's see, Brian Zip is in the house, and I just wanted to say a personal thank you to Brian Zip and also to Joe Lynch, who is part of the Media Center. Esta noche tenemos interpretación en español. Si alguien lo necesite, Felipe, puedes decir hola. Si quieres sentar al lado de Felipe, Felipe puede ayudar en cualquier minuto. So I'm going to pass it over to Jess, who's going to make a few introductions.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for coming and welcome. My name is Jess White. I am the other co-director and chief operating officer for the Center for Arts at the Armory. And again, we're really grateful for you to come out and show your support. I just want to introduce quickly our board members, and this is not in order, so they can raise their hands. Hathaway Higgs, who is our board chair, Ruth Ferris, Neil Berman, Yvonne Abarca, and Amanda Klein. I also want to recognize our amazing staff, and they are scattered throughout everywhere, so they might not be clearly visible. But I just want to recognize Elise Brown, Virginia Preston, Dan Blair, Chloe Kunha, Trisha Brown, Kim Campbell-Movitz, Jonathan Casella, Sam Shawan, Flora Spivak, also our cafe staff, Jana Adele, Tanner Maliv, and Rafi Plum, and our bar and event staff, Nick Hahn, Vanessa Moya, Joshua LaFerge, Bree Schaefer, Matthew Cody, Avery Kamai, Becca Skolke, Charmaine Thompson, and also our tech staff, Kaylin Anderson, Steve Gates, Kyle Reese, and Maurice Bouchard, and also our Somerville Winters Farmers Market manager, Juliana Soltis. So thank you for all of your support as well.
Hey, and hello to those of you who are joining us via Zoom, and we can go ahead and advance to the next slide. Also, I just want to thank so many of you, so many familiar faces in the audience tonight, our supporters, our friends, our city councilors. Thanks for coming out to this important community meeting tonight. So I just wanted to start and share with you what we have set as our agenda for the evening. We're running a little bit behind schedule, but we're going to speak clearly and efficiently and try to get you a lot of good information. And we then want to transition into a Q&A when you, our audience, and our community is going to have a chance to ask questions, get answers that we can provide, and our Zoom participants will have that same opportunity. And then we're going to transition into a time for testimonies and commentary also by our meeting participants. And we're going to limit everybody to 2 minutes each, just so we can try to get through as many comments as possible. And so, as I already mentioned, Somerville Media Center is helping us out with the recording tonight. And that recording is going to be provided by us to the mayor, the Somerville City Council, the Somerville Armory Master Plan Advisory Committee, the Somerville Arts Council, and the Armory Master Plan consultant Create Today. So by virtue of being here, you're giving your consent to be recorded tonight. And again, thanks for coming and participating. So if we could go ahead and advance to the next slide. I just wanted to share some of our meeting objectives for tonight. Tonight is really about taking a moment to say, how did we get here? And to hear from you, to share information with you, and also to propose some solutions and next steps. So we want to provide our perspective on the City of Somerville's Armory Master Plan process and why it's been a missed opportunity. We want to educate you, our community, about our nonprofit organization, our successes and lessons learned. We want to share what our experience has been as the anchor tenant in the Armory building with the city as the landlord for the past 2+ years. We also want to provide a forum for you, our community, to speak and to ask questions and to get answers. We want to share with our community how you can have your voices heard by city government officials. So if we could just go to the next slide, please. Okay. So I want to give a little bit of history and a brief overview. The Center for Arts at the Armory, or CAA, I'll say that acronym, and so by that I mean the Center for Arts at the Armory, was incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2005 and opened its doors in 2008. And at that time, the Armory building was under private ownership by Highland Armory Realty Trust, or the acronym used is HART, and the Sater family, principally Joseph and Nabil, who purchased the building from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and developed the Armory building into its current iteration. CAA became the anchor tenant and rented the performance hall, the cafe, and other spaces over time and operated independently. Between 2005 and 2019, CAA had 3 different executive directors and accumulated approximately $400,000 in rent debt. So different financial models with the building owner, the Saters and Hart, including CAA managing the building against a small rent credit, were tried over the years. CAA struggled financially, relied heavily on volunteer labor, and paid its employees either minimum wage or a close approximate. I also want to say we had a positive working relationship with the Sater family during that time, and I'm going to talk in more detail about what happened during the pandemic. But the next point is important, and I really want to urge everyone here tonight to leave with this understanding. A lot of times, and understandably so, when people say the Armory, they mean the Center for Arts at the Armory. Sometimes when people say arts at the Armory, what they really are talking about is the Armory building. And so just to keep in mind that those are 2 separate things, there's an important distinction. And while CAA has historically operated the largest amount of square footage in the building as the anchor tenant, and we've also helped to manage the building in the past, it has never operated or owned the entire building. So Armory does not necessarily equate with arts at the Armory, and arts at the Armory doesn't necessarily mean the Armory building. So if we can all just try to remember that leaving here tonight, I think that will help somewhat. But if we could go ahead and advance to the next slide. Okay. So in 2019, the outgoing executive director, Leah Ruscio, who many of you know, she announced her plans to step down from her post after 7 years. And so at that time, Leah also served as the only board member. She formed an advisory group, and that was actually led by Joe Lynch, who's here tonight. And from that group, our current board of directors was born. And that advisory group hired me as the executive director at that time. And 6 months later, the pandemic hit. And during the pandemic, both HART, or the Saters, and CAA faced increased financial pressure as we were not able to host events, which provided our organization with our primary source of income. So with our ability to fully meet our monthly rent commitment compromised, the building owner, the Saters, started the process to find a way to rent the performance hall to a commercial entity. And in May of 2021, the City of Somerville acquired the building by eminent domain to preserve the building for arts uses. So I'm going to turn it over to Jess.
So a year into the ownership of the Armory building, the city basically instituted an Armory master planning process, and they hired a consultant team called Create Today based out of New York to guide that process. Our organization, Center for Arts of the Armory, offered support and collaboration to the city at each turn since that change of ownership. We've waited patiently for the master planning process to play out. In addition, we've offered our guidance, our expertise, proposed plans regarding building maintenance and management. We've conducted extensive research on municipal arts buildings and how they function effectively. Center for Arts of the Armory was part of just 3 meetings that the consultant organized for our Armory tenants. And Stephanie and I also participated in a 90-minute Armory stakeholder interview with the consultants. Outside of those 3 meetings, we were actually regarded just as an interested party, and we were not engaged to share our experience, any of our expertise, our business model, our assessment on how to best serve the community through the arts, any ideas about fostering Armory building culture, or any lessons that we've learned over the years, including in building management. Next slide, please. Just to go back a little bit further, as everyone started to emerge out of the pandemic, our organization, Center for Arts of the Armory, is focused on stabilizing our specific organization, growing our staff, creating equitable employment opportunities, serving the community through growth and programming, and making much needed improvements both in the cafe and in the performance hall. We instituted a co-directorship model, and this is where I came in 2021, where I was hired to be co-director and chief operating officer, and Stephanie moved into transitioning to a co-director and chief executive officer. Since 2021, we've hosted close to 2,000 events and served almost 500,000 people in our spaces. They've come through our doors. We've brought in world-renowned artists such as Sweet Honey in the Rock, John Schofield, Bill Frisell, Elay, and countless others. We've offered blood drives, food and clothing distribution drives, worship services. We've hosted various community events and community groups in our spaces. We provided opportunities for BIPOC and other underserved artists. We've supported the performing arts in all of their disciplines. And we continue to host and manage the Somerville Winters Farmers Market, which occurs every Saturday during the winter. We are currently beginning an extensive capital project after receiving notification of approval of both an ARPA and MCC grants, and we'll be putting in a new line array sound system. We'll be improving lighting and projection, and we'll also be building a rigging system to support our aerial circus arts partners and those groups to allow more flexibility and modularity to our spaces that can be used for a variety of different art performances. Can advance the next slide, please. We've spent a lot of time and effort in creating both fair and equitable pricing structures for all of our spaces. In the performance hall, we have a variety of rental structures that are available to anyone wanting to rent the hall. And those go basically from anything from a private rental to sliding scale models. We offer city rates, nonprofit rates, community rates in all different forms, and we're always willing to work with anyone who wants to use the performance hall or interested in using any of our spaces. We also created POP, which stands for the Performance Opportunity Program, which allows for groups to apply to use this space at an extremely discounted rate. Most of the events that we have in our cafe are either free or we don't charge at all. All we do is ask that they meet a very reasonable concession minimum. We're also able to offer the cafe for private events as well. All of our spaces are rented at rates that are far less than any comparable size venue in the greater Boston area. We've been able to do this with current rent structure, although it's difficult, but the more our rent goes up, the harder it is to keep our rates down, and that becomes an issue. Next slide, please. So after the city took possession of the Armory building, we basically were without a lease until August of 2021. At that point, we were presented with a legally dubious use and occupancy agreement that we were asked to sign. And although we tried to negotiate those terms, in the end, we weren't given any choice, and we basically were told to just sign the UNO if we wanted to be in possession of any type of document that could stand in for a lease while we were applying for grants and loans and things like that. From the first use and occupancy agreement, the city had introduced a rent structure that basically included a base rent, which was comparable, was the same as what we had been paying under private ownership. And then they also implemented a profit sharing model, which basically asked for us to pay a percentage of all of our profit from event revenue back to the city as well. After that period from 2021 to 2022, the use and occupancy expired on June 30th of 2022, and we went without any sort of use and occupancy again for another 7 months. During that time, we continuously pestered and petitioned the city for some sort of use and occupancy agreement. We needed it for the purpose of trying to secure a Mass Cultural Council grant. We were literally days before the grant deadline, and on February 2nd of this year of 2023, we finally were able to get a new use and occupancy through the city. At that point, they actually had doubled our rent from what had happened in the one that we had previously. A doubling occurred 7 months again into our fiscal year. We had already budgeted our rental expense back from May and June of 2022, according to the terms of the last use and occupancy, in absence of any new agreement. It should be noted that the city often does seek to use the performance hall and our cafe, and they've always gone through the same process that everybody else does in terms of renting. We've offered during the use and occupancy negotiations, we did propose a rent credit in return for the city's use of the performance hall for a certain number of days per year, but that idea was rejected by the city, so that didn't happen. Next slide.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Armory Master Plan meetings that occurred between June and August well, this month actually. So fast forward to June 2023, when city officials and the Create Today consultants held what was at that time their third Armory tenant meeting. And at that meeting, we were presented with the consultants' findings and recommendations to the city related to the future of the Armory building. So these findings included a series of strategies, some of which sounded remarkably similar to CAA's current goals and activities. After a year of Armory Master planning, we heard echoes of our own business model, mission, and values repeated back to us as an endorsement of what the community wanted to see in the Armory building. But the strategies and models were little more than ideas. There was no business plan or financials, and no clarity on who would be implementing the strategies or under what terms. So the consultant also presented the following 5 owner or operator models. And I just want to note here that I flipped the order of models 2 and 3 for ease of discussion tonight. But when the models below were presented, model 2 was programming partners and model 3 was multiple tenants. So I just wanted to make that clear. But basically model 1 was the city as owner and operator. Multiple 2 was called multiple tenants, and model 3 was called programming partners. Model 4 was called third party operator, and model 5 was sell the building. So it was explained to us that the city had already chosen 2 out of the 5 models to go forward. The city, right off the bat, disregarded model 5 as an option. They chose model 1, the city as owner and operator, as one of the 2 models to go forward. So in this model, Arts at the Armory would presumably no longer exist, and that was confirmed in a call that I had with Greg Jenkins, nor would any of the other current tenants be here. So the second model that was chosen by the city to advance was model 2, or the multiple tenants model. In this model, the city would manage the building, but the city wouldn't operate any of their own spaces in the building. If the city wanted to use Armory space, it would rent it from the tenants. So during that meeting, I urged the participating city officials to reconsider their removal of model 4, or the third party operator model, as a viable model. And I think the city or the consultant would need to clarify this, but I think that when they say third party operator, I think it's really synonymous with manager. So third party manager of the building, I think it would perhaps be a better name, but again, we would need to let them clarify. So at that time, I mentioned many local examples that operate according to this model. The Boston Center for the Arts, the Multicultural Arts Center of Cambridge, the Foundry, which is also a new space in Cambridge, and the Zeiterion Performing Arts Center in New Bedford, Massachusetts. So the city and the consultant went forward with their plans for 3 community meetings, 2 in-person meetings at our cafe on July 24th, and 1 online meeting on August 1st. At which they presented these strategies and the 2 models chosen for consideration. And the community was asked to provide feedback. The community, by and large, opposed the first model, proposing city operation of the building. but more questions were created than answered, as there was not clarity or consistency in the consultant's findings, recommendations, and exercises, and the proposed models were little more than two ideas. The August 1st online meeting was especially problematic, as no one besides city officials knew who else was in the Zoom meeting, and the format did not encourage meaningful community participation. So we could advance to the next slide, please. So I'd like to talk about some missed opportunities in the Armory Master Plan process to date. So led by Create Today and city officials, the Armory Master Planning process has now been underway for over a year. As part of the process, there's an advisory group that was formed, but the members of the advisory group have not been disclosed, and their role in the process is not fully clear. We still don't know who is going to make these final decisions. Is it the mayor? Is it city council? Who decided for the two models to go forward? We don't know. The city has shared updates from the process on the City of Somerville website. Some or possibly all of the advisory group Zoom meetings are posted on this webpage, so you're kind of able to discern who is part of that advisory group in that way. And they're all there and available if you want to take a look. According to the website, it's projected that this process will finish by late 2023. So we had hoped that the results of the process to date would have been more substantive and would have included more case studies, both from the Somerville Armory itself and other Somerville entities, and similar entities really to the Armory building, as well as proposed financial modeling and a suggested RFP process. And when I say RFP, it's just an acronym for Request for Proposal. So soon after the city took the building by eminent domain, there was discussion of an RFP process by which entities would be able to bid to both manage the building and by which prospective tenants could bid to use the spaces through a transparent selection process. So we've been told that the consultant has not yet been engaged to create an RFP process, and we are not certain if an RFP process is still part of the Armory Master Planning process. So if we could just go to the next slide, please.
So given that the two options that are currently on the table are one, dissolve the Center for Arts of the Armory and all other Armory tenants, or two, put the city in charge of continuing to manage the building, our leadership has concerns about both of these options. In response to Model 1, we believe that the city does not have the capacity to effectively manage, operate, or program the full scope of the Armory building. Nothing has been put forward about what the city's rent structure would be in Model 2. So during the 2+ years of ownership, the city has not been effective or responsive in terms of ownership of the building. In addition to the travails that we've experienced related to the rent hikes and the city's failure to execute a proper use and occupancy agreement on a timely basis, there's a long list of facility and management issues that have plagued this building since the city is taking ownership. We're not going to further divert into all of the issues here. Many of the details are publicly available, and city officials themselves have said publicly that they have not done well by the Armory and that the mayor has thanked us for being a test case. There's no indication that any of this would change in the proposed models. And it should be noted that the decision to take the Armory building was made by a different city council and in the final year of former Mayor Joe Curtatone and also former OSPCD Director George Poakis. They have ended their respective tenures. They were both the primary architects of this Armory eminent domain, and they're no longer in their posts. Next slide. So a lot of this predates my time here. I started in July of 2021. It's my understanding that up until the pandemic hit in 2020, that Center for Arts of the Armory did act as building management with an agreement with the previous owners, with the Saders. When the pandemic hit, it shut down basically all programming in the performance hall and in the cafe. We were no longer to really run the building. Just like most arts venues at that time, we had to cut back on our staff temporarily. We no longer had the capacity or the capability to manage the building. When we all emerged out of the pandemic and we started getting back to normal is when the eminent domain happened, and we were no longer given that option under the new ownership to act as building manager. Along with the other tenants, we were told that we just had to wait for the master plan to play out. We did insist, or I insisted really, on meeting with the city regularly and to get updates. And as we started growing more and more frustrated with the lack of custodial services and maintenance and issues that the building started to become really problematic, and it started to impact our businesses. Just this past March, we actually created an interim management proposal, and asked for a meeting with the mayor. We waited 5 months to have this meeting and presented basically a comprehensive plan on how to interim manage things while the process played out. After presenting that plan, we received no response to that proposal at all. I started meeting regularly with Jill Latham, the Director of Department of Public Works, in April. And we started to see some improvement then. And Jill and her staff have actually been really great to work with, and we are thankful for all of their work. But there's still no management plan in place. We also understand that the Armory building was not factored in at all to the city's fiscal budget this year, and that's concerning to us as well. It's because of where we've been for the past 2 years and our frustrations that have grown over time, that we're advocating that the city adopt the third-party operator model and issue an RFP and any interested parties to manage the building. Next slide.
Okay, so I'm not going to have time tonight to go into depth on some of these case studies and points of reference listed on this slide, but anybody should feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to share the research that we've done. This really should have been the work that was done and shared by the consultant, but to date we have not seen that, although we've actually shared a lot of our own research with the consultant. I'll just say that over the past 2 years, while the city has owned the building, like Jess has said, we've been helpful, cooperative, patient, but we've also kept our noses down and focused on our spaces and our organization. We gave the city, and we wanted to give the city, the time and space they asked for to work on their Armory master plan. But we also did our own research along the way. And here we are. And at the end of the day, our success as the Center for Arts at the Armory is also tied to the building's success. And in order for us to thrive and continue to serve our community, an appropriate model, rent structure, and building culture needs to be adopted in the Armory building. I just want to make a few points about some of the spaces listed on this slide. I'll start with some of the Somerville examples. Given that Somerville is considered full of artists and pro-arts, the city is actually quite short on buildings dedicated to the arts, and even shorter on buildings that are owned by their operators for purposes of the arts. So Lynn Gervins, who's here in the audience tonight, thank you, Lynn, for being here. I admire Lynn so much and everything she's been able to build over at Mud Flat since the 1970s. Yay. So Lynn has shared with me how her group responded to an RFP from the city of Somerville in 2010 to purchase the Broadway Theater and fundraised $4 million to invest in the building's renovation. Then there's the Somerville Museum. I don't know if Allison or Barbara or anybody from the museum are here tonight, or perhaps watching on Zoom. But basically the Somerville Museum was purchased by the museum's trustees back in 1923. So a case could be made that stability and sustainability is ultimately only possible through building ownership. So I'll note here that from the 5 models for the Armory that the consultant came up with, selling the building was immediately taken off the table. But maybe it shouldn't have been. There's not time to go fully into this tonight, but I ask you to consider this idea. What if Arts at the Armory was able to buy the building from the city with a mandate that it must always be used for arts purposes? We would also need to be ready to take on the full capital cost of the building, including all of the major work needed, including the roof, the plumbing, etc. We're not prepared to advocate for that tonight, but I just wanted to kind of lob that idea out there and let it marinate with all of you. And I'm going to get back now to some of the examples on this slide. So I want to stick with Somerville for a minute. I think there's much to be learned from the very successful Bow Market in Union Square. I often make the argument that the lines are actually pretty blurry in the arts between for-profit and nonprofit. to survive in today's world as an artist, pretty much everybody has to be some type of entrepreneur. I was in communication with Zach Baum, he and his business partner at Bow Market. And he told me that they have a governance model, an application process, and a rent structure that we should definitely be looking at. Like Bow Market, we need to see a catalog of the spaces available in the Armory building and what can happen in these spaces. This is what we were hoping would be some of the work that the consultant would have had by this time. So, there's some limitations to what can happen in these spaces. For example, the basement spaces are very limited in what can happen there as they're not ventilated. We'd like to see an RFP put out to the community for arts uses in all of the spaces in the Armory building. And let's see who submits a proposal. We would also join in submitting that proposal for use of the performance hall, the cafe, and B5, or any other space we might be interested in using. So I don't think that giving free space for the arts is a viable model, but I would advocate instead for a highly subsidized model for arts nonprofits, businesses, or entrepreneurs that need a space to operate from. There could also be a dedicated or different dedicated shared worker or creator spaces, but someone needs to manage them. Our own B5 room down in the basement, it kind of operates like this. Different people rent from us if they have a meeting that they're doing, a rehearsal, a class. So it's a space that we make available to people who need it for those creative uses. So there's other examples on this list, like the Zeiterion in New Bedford, who we've been in touch with, that involve both public and private funds to renovate historical buildings, or in the Z's case, they go by the Z, a 99-year lease to operate the building. The Z and others are good examples of also third-party operator arrangements. And the Foundry over in Cambridge opened last year after $46 million invested by the city of Cambridge. And the Foundry operates the first floor of that building with arts and community programming, and then it receives its $1.5 million operating budget from the rent collected from the commercial spaces on the second and third floors. So of all of the examples we looked at, not one was operated by a city or a municipality, and there were no cases of arts tenants paying rent to a city. In fact, the opposite was true. The arts operators were collecting rent from other spaces in their building as part of their operating income. So if you could go to the next slide. So as promised, we wanted to talk about next steps and some solutions that we've come up with, that we've put into a petition that is already circulating and getting lots of signatures, even though we haven't really had the full chance to explain some of these ideas. But one purpose of this presentation was to share some missed opportunities in the city's Armory master plan process, and also to share solutions that we came up with as next steps. And we're asking you to consider if you too think these are good solutions, and if so, to sign our petition. So we're advocating that Model 1 be abandoned, the idea of the city owning and operating the entire building. And we believe that the Armory building would be best managed by a third-party operator. And we ask you to consider if you too would believe that this would lead to a better outcome for our community. We believe that if the Armory building is to realize its full potential as a hub for the arts and service of the community, that is best done with a third-party building manager. And if an RFP for a building manager was announced, Arts at the Armory would submit a proposal. So when the Armory master plan process began, there was talk about RFPs for a building manager and for prospective tenants. Our petition also advocates that the city should create an RFP that prospective Armory tenants would respond to. And of course, then there needs to be a transparent and fair process by which decisions are going to be made on which tenants get leases in the spaces. There's also been vague mention in this process of a governance model in the Armory master plan. But thus far, the Armory master plan process has not produced any outputs in these areas. So our petition advocates that the city hired consultant would create a governance model with the collaboration of current arts tenants. The argument is that current arts tenants are important stakeholders, and we have a lot of knowledge to impart. we would have to go through the RFP process as well, and our future lease at the Armory would not be guaranteed. The committee choosing future Armory tenants would need to be impartial. And so these are questions that need to be figured out, but there's many references to draw on, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. If you can just go to the next slide.
So we want to thank everyone again for coming out and showing their support. And what we would like to do is be able to open up any questions related to what we just talked about. And we will do our best to answer those questions. There might be questions that we don't know the answers to, but really as it pertains to what we just presented. So we're going to kind of go back and forth between being on the floor and then being in Zoom. So if you do have a question, feel free to step up to the mic. And like I said, we'll do our best to answer them. And we will go back and forth between the Zoom and the floor. After that is over, then we'll kind of do what the city did. We'll open it up to a 2-minute commentary. And again, we will record so that we can share this with the city and the city council and Create Today and everyone else that's been involved in this process. And that 2-minute commentary will just go uninterrupted. We won't respond. We'll just let people say what they would like to say. Also, there is a link to the petition that's on our website of the homepage of our website. There are also QR codes that are scattered around that link to the petition. And Vanessa, who's at the table over here, also has a computer. Elise will probably join her in a minute. And you can, if you need some help getting onto the petition, they can help you as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add too that we're going to be translating our petition into Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. So we'll be circulating that as well in the days ahead.
Cool. So if you'd like to come up and ask questions, that would be great. Hey.
My understanding is that one thing that's limited the profitability, if you want to use that word, of the Armory is the limitations on hours that were put in place because there was not soundproofing in this performance hall. I want to find out what the progress was of the soundproofing project, and if it's got far enough along that those restrictions could be removed and you could continue operating until 1 or 2 in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, actually the soundproofing project, or it's actually sound mitigation. I don't think any building, unless it's built like a room inside of a room, could be completely soundproof. It's just not how sound works. But the sound mitigation process was completed actually right before I started. So it was in 2021. At that point, we did go through the process and we sat in front of the licensing committee and filled out the paperwork, and our hours have been extended as of now. We don't push it beyond certain limits unless, in most cases, because we want to be respectful of our neighbors. We also want to be respectful of not having our staff be here all the time, but there is now more of a cushion than it ever had been before. So that is in place currently.
My question is, if the city already has so many other projects to be working on, and I guess some people have said that, yes, they haven't done well by the Armory, what is their perspective on why they want to maintain ownership? What are they saying?
We don't know. It is a really good question.
Yeah, it's hard. I think we can't speak for the city. And so
Said anything publicly?
No.
Not that I'm aware of, no. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
Yep. Denise.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You also asked them to speak up, so the virtual folks can hear them as it speaks better.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was going to suggest too, if you kind of want to turn almost sideways, that way you can see both us and the community at the same time.
Okay, I'm the one who asked the soundproofing question. I'm Ron Newman, who lives in Davis Square.
Thank you.
And I'm Lori Siegel. I'm the one who asked the question about what the city's perspective is.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Barbara Steiner, and my question is, why would you have to leave if the city owns, keeps owning the building? I don't understand why everybody has to move out.
I think the idea is, so they propose these 5 models, right? And model 1 is called city as owner and operator. So we did confirm that in that model, if that were to go forward, the city would be the one doing all of the programming and operating, actually in the building. So I also confirmed that the current tenants, including the current arts tenants, would actually need to leave in that scenario.
Okay, well, I sure hope they don't. do
We
that.
don't know,
That's
I mean, we
insane.
don't know, part of it, we don't know what branch of the city or organization would actually do the programming. I think that that's unclear. There were questions that were asked during the meetings that they hosted. And we don't really know, but we do know that they would just mean that they would take each of the spaces within the building and do the programming. You know, so that's why we say that we would no longer be here.
Yeah, I guess I would say it's so important for us to say something about this because the city does not, I don't think they have the capacity to do this, and they know they don't have the capacity, so it makes me wonder what they would be doing. But anyway, thank you for.
Thank you. Do we want to pause and see if there are any questions on the Zoom?
There are no questions on Zoom right now.
Okay, great. Excellent. Any other questions related to anything that we talked about at all? Oh, here we go.
Beatriz Gomez Marquez, and right now I'm gonna speak like a resident, not like not as a counselor, sorry. Can you, educate us of the skill set, what it takes to run a space like this? You know, you have performances, you need folks who have lighting experience, you have to do the marketing, you have to do sound, because one of the things I see is a big part of this building, there's other parts of it, is this performance space. And I think it would be very important for the public to understand that expertise that's done, because it's not something, I'm gonna speak cautiously, it's not an expertise the city has. Like when they have events, you know, I've seen in a recent performance at Art Beat, there was this like awkward moment when the performers want to be there longer, they have someone else coming, they were testing sound, it was an outside company that they used. So it would be, I think it's a good piece of information because it's an important piece of this building. Thank you.
Can I answer that? Yeah. Thanks. So there's a couple of things that, one thing in particular that I want to say that I think is important just to start off with, but thank you for your question. On Friday, we just saw that we got a Google alert for a news article in Boston.com saying that Center for Arts of the Armory was one of 19 hidden gems of the state of Massachusetts in terms of live music or music venues. And for us, like, you know, this little nonprofit group and it's amazing, you know, it's amazing like what has happened in its history and what we've grown into now. And, you know, I look at our staff and like, everyone works so hard. Like it is not easy to, one of the things in the article that they quoted was just the diversity of programming. You know, we have everything. It's not just one type of thing. Like we're doing markets and dancing and aerial circuses and wrestling events and weddings and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and like music concerts and everything. So to change that over on a day-to-day basis, to go from having a wrestling event to a wedding, to a concert, to a dance performance, to a circus, requires a staff that is really dedicated, like setting up chairs, breaking chairs down, setting up the stage, running sound, running lights, running projection, doing rigging. I mean, we have our current setup, we have a booking coordinator who just deals with all of the inquiries coming in and then managing our calendar. We have our event staff, we have an accounting person who handles like what's getting paid for what and what we're doing with all of it. I mean, we went from being primarily a volunteer-based staff to now really having we have 7 full-time employees in order to manage that, and
How many part-time?
and 21 part-time employees. I mean, these are things that are, you know, again, just take time and organization and precision, and we mess up stuff and we get a lot of things right, and we just continue to grow and change. Even small things, you know, the food in our cafe and our bar, like we have an amazing bar manager right now who makes sure that we have incredible things and different things and local things on our menu. It ties everything together. So it is very well thought out and really a lot to execute. Stephanie and I work an average of about 85 hours a week, and we're we are tired, but we're also excited. So there's a
I'm
lot.
Just gonna add a few things there. I'm so grateful to have Jess as a co-director, and I don't think all of this would be possible without a co-director like Jess. And I think, as Neil just whispered in my ear, when Jess applied, it was actually, she applied for the operations manager job. And I think she was the most overqualified person in history to apply. And Jess is very humble. She will not really divulge her experience, but she was manager for Ani DeFranco and Harry Connick and Bob Dylan and all of these amazing artists, and also worked in New York City for Summer Stage and helped them build out their stage there. So together, we have over 50 years between the two of us of leadership experience in this field. And, we oversee kind of different parts of the organization, and we come together. We have our weekly meeting on Wednesdays from 1 to 3, where we talk about the things that we need to talk about and where we intersect. I'm really focused on fundraising, on marketing, on really external relations, on working with the board. Jess is really responsible in her area of strength, which is live events and the operations. So the CEO COO match has really been working out, and we really want to make a go of this and bring the organization into its next chapter. And we have really big dreams of what this space could be, and we're starting now with the grant money that we have on making some really important improvements in this space. So stay tuned, because great things are on the way.
Hi, thanks. My name is Greg Epstein, just Somerville resident. Just want to say, first of all, if I get a little animated or agitated, like I really don't want to be here, like having to do this with you all. Like, I'd rather be home giving my son a bath, don't you all have better things to do, right? So first of all, I'm a longtime community organizer, former arts organizer, have used this space for all kinds of meaningful things. For example, like we had our wedding reception here under the previous management. And then we most recently had a baby naming ceremony here for our daughter, which you were, mostly all at, and highly competent. That's what I would say, the whole place, everybody that's here that works on this place, extremely competent, which for the arts is really quite special, because what you then have to do is you have to be an arts person, right? You have to love art. You have to know good art when you see it. And then you have to also be a really competent person. And the two things don't actually join together that well. Like if you've been, doing stuff like this, like I have for 30 years, like I've been lacking on the competence scale myself at times, and just loved art. And it's just so refreshing to see people like yourselves who can do both sides of it. So, okay, but then I'm also a writer, and I write about ethics for, including for local publications like the Globe for its ideas section, and MIT Technology Review and things like that. And so I was going to do a piece about the Armory last year, actually, when I heard about the eminent domain thing. It freaked me out. It's like, what? Because I heard that I write about tech and ethics, which is a cluster. But I heard that there was going to be a tech company of some kind. I couldn't get the details. I tried digging, and I ultimately was like, okay, I've got better things to do than to obsess over this. But I heard that a tech company of some kind was going to be given sort of opportunity to basically take over at least significant parts of this place. And it just it boggled my mind. And I was going to write a piece for the Globe or whatever that basically said, a tech company came for my local community, my beloved local community arts center. Good governance prevailed. That was going to be the hook. That was what I was discussing with my editors. Good governance prevailed, and in the domain, better, cooler heads prevailed, and now here we are, right? So I was like, okay, I don't need to write that piece. It sounds fun to do, but I got other things. But are you telling me seriously? Like with all the pride that this city takes in its governance, are we actually sitting here saying that we just elected a mayor who doesn't see the value of this? Like, I can't imagine it. What is happening? Like, the mayor works how many meters from here? A few hundred or what? Like, are you serious? Like, what is in it for them? Is it money? Like, are there millions of dollars at stake? Like, what is going on?
Wow. That's awesome.
I just to respond to that a little bit, I mean, we of course share your frustration and we did speak to Ted Fields. I don't know if Ted is on the Zoom, and Rachel Carney, who both work for the city of Somerville, and imagine how we feel in the sense of how destabilizing this is for our organization. Our funders want to know if we're going to be around in a year. The people that we have contracts with for weddings and concerts, you know, in 2 years down the line, want to know, are we going to be able to make good on that contract? Our staff want to know if they're going to have jobs in 6 months' time. So in a time when the city is talking about preserving art spaces and trying to bolster and support the arts, actually the opposite has been true in this process, and we have been completely destabilized as a result. But we're not going to let that stop us. We're like, okay, that's it. We are calling a community meeting. We're going to issue a statement to the press. We're going to circulate a petition because we waited for a year. This is what was delivered, and now it's our turn to speak. And that's why all of you are here, and your voice is really important too, because basically the community in this whole process, the city asked for feedback. They are essentially workshopping these 5 models, right? These 5 models that we talked about. So they want to see if these ideas have legs. But my frustration, and I think our organization's frustration, is why didn't you do this internally and figure out that model 1 was not a good idea before bringing it to the public domain? So exactly to your point, Greg, it's like, why are we even here having this conversation? But we had to do the right thing by our community and by you know, our staff and our organization and our supporters, and say, we need to collect the community's feedback. We're going to deliver that to the powers that be so they can hear it, and we're going to circulate a petition because they asked for community feedback, and we're going to provide it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ben Ewan-Campen. I'm on the city council, and I'll just start with a personal story. My wife and my first date was here at a concert. I met her because she had a radio show at the media center in Union Square, and I got a crush on her over her radio show, and then our first date was here. So thank you. And I also just want to say, I was on the council when the council voted to take this by eminent domain, and never in a million years did any of us think that that would lead to displacing Arts at the Armory. The idea was folks like you were under threat, and the city was seeking to protect you all, to keep this, I wouldn't say it's a hidden gem, to keep this gem. So I'm not able to speak on behalf of the council, but I do want to say, I very strongly believe that that was the intent of all of us. Going forward, there was a question asked before on, you know, who in the city is making decisions. I do want to be really clear that the city council has had no formal role thus far. Going forward, the formal role of the city council that I'm aware of is if there were any new leases, the city council would have to approve those. So that is a really important point of leverage that I want to make sure the community and you all are aware of. And, you know, just speaking as one counselor, I want to do everything that we possibly can to support you all and keep you here in Somerville for as long as humanly possible. So I'm really sorry that it has gotten to this point. I think that all of us are, but I'm very thankful that you guys did kind of start the more public facing part of this, because I think it's very clarifying for the city. And while this might be an unpopular thing to say, I actually feel very optimistic that the city is ultimately going to do the right thing here. And I know that all of us will be doing everything we can to help. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we moving from commentary to
Hi, my name is Parmital Pajai. I probably have been one of the most outspoken people against what happened in eminent domain seizure. But rather than just talk about myself, I wanted to first talk about, there are some incredible tenants here that unfortunately have not even been brought up in this conversation. And I spoke to the city council hundreds of times about us. And I hope that we could move forward in a positive light and do something. Because a lot of you guys know me, and a lot of you guys have spoken to me, and I have done this without pay to represent the tenants. Here's one of them, right here, Jennifer. She runs the acoustic strings of New England. This has not been brought up today. It should. She works with the Somerville Public School System with me, and we teach students. She brings them string instruments. She actually restrings them. She offers lessons. She does so much. Nobody's brought that up. But I just want to bring this up. Here's an important person. The Center Arts of the Armory is doing wonderful work. I agree, even though they've done terrible things to me. I agree that with art, they have done a great job. But there are other people. Some of the most forward-standing people are her, and there are others here, but also Adam and Mark Balvois of Dead Moon Audio, who have recorded so many different performances around Somerville, who have done, yeah, please stand up, Jennifer. Please stand up, Adam. They have done some incredible work. And what I want to see from the city and the council and SAC is the work that I keep on doing, but you should be doing it. Please, please have the voice to do it. Because some of you listened. Willie Burnley Jr. right over here, let's give him a big round of applause, actually bothered to give me a town hall meeting, and he was refused to actually hold it, but regardless, he was part of it. And unfortunately, in that town hall meeting, people were too afraid. I designed that. I put out the petition. I went day in and day out and talked about the tenants, talked about things, got that done. And guess what? Nobody talked about the harassment of the tenants. So what I want to leave you with is a couple of things that I know. I started this probably younger than anyone in this place. So I started doing things in the Somerville community at 19, 20 years ago. Probably the youngest person doing this kind of activity for so long. I started with murals at MIT. I worked with SAC completely voluntarily for years and years. So when the press came to me and people said, how did you know SAC and the center were going to take over this building and repopulate it? I said, because I knew these people since I was a teenager. So I have an answer for you. When people ask, why did the city take it over? Sure, it's a beautiful building. And there's also different arts organizations, like I was talking about, that don't talk about other artists. So sometimes different councils, one council in particular, I don't need to name it, starts taking over buildings and starts running it like they run it, and little by little are doing that. And that's happening in this building. There are places, there are tenants that have left, that I tried to protect, that I petitioned for, that I stayed night after night to fight for, and they're gone. And in their places are Arts Council businesses, but everyone's good. The Center for Arts of the Armory does great stuff. Somerville Arts Council does great stuff. Why can't you all just come together, you arts organizations, and work together? Because it looks silly to the population. You could go in, and I'll really end with that, and say, oh, rah, 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 that woman of color is saying this, but I'm also an MIT graduate. I'm also an international scholar. I've also toured the world on a violin, and my parents who immigrated here say, how in the hell did this happen? That our daughter, who does nothing wrong, was called on the cops by the city in retaliation while she was playing classical music downstairs. This is true. And nobody did anything. You know who did the most? Ironically, were the Somerville cops who said, who are the absurd people who are doing this to you? And I said, wow, I guess Black Lives Matter. So what we need to do is we need to look at certain arts agencies and say, do they have too much power? How are we going to create a democracy with arts groups and start talking about other people and not just yourself, and then we'll get something done. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, so we were on the question and answer, but I guess, well, let's move into the commentary section.
Oh, not before I get a say.
Do you have a question?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to go. The only reason I'm going to speak tonight is to support arts at the Armory. I know it's a tough road. Nonprofits seem to be under attack in this city. It's expensive for everyone. Wealthy, not wealthy, not-for-profits, small businesses, big businesses. It is expensive to do business in Somerville. I know that personally. I won't take any credit for anything that you are doing today. But as a person who has served on the advisory committee for Boston Center for the Arts, the treasurer for the dance complex in Cambridge, the former president of the Somerville Media Center and current board president, and your former chair advisory to your chair, to your advisory board. I'm very proud that the advisory committee with Ruth and Neil at the time hired Stephanie. And I'm very proud that you hired Jess. And I'm very proud of the organization that you have put together. I'm also very proud that Somerville Media Center is the reason that Ben Ewan Campen married his wife. But I leave you with this. It is a mantra that I have had my entire adult life. What would you have us do? Give up, give out, give in. Stay with it. We're with you and we support you.
Thank you.
Sorry, really quickly, I actually do have a question. Hi, my name is Willie Brentley Jr., Somerville City Councilor at large. Nice to meet you. Some of you on the stage know me. I would say half, maybe even a little more, who knows. Just really quickly, I think Jess alluded to this earlier. You know, through my interactions with the Armory, I've seen a number of things, had a number of conversations, and I think it would be instructive for the community to hear a little bit of, through your personal experiences being here under city control and operation, what experiences have you had that make you dubious that Model 1 would be helpful for the tenants, helpful for their art in the community? I feel as though that's a question that each of you could answer in your own ways. I just want to make space for that. Thank you.
So,
We're not trying to get into,
Neil, do you want the mic?
no,
Okay.
I can do this real quick. We're not trying to do this. I'm not sure you want to when you hear me, but
right here.
I'm sorry. We planned this meeting for a very specific purpose. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Neil Berman, I'm on the board of the Center for Arts at the Armory and have been for 3 lifetimes, as far as I can tell. We planned this meeting specifically to get out our take on what's going on in how the city is dealing with taking the property. The property was taken, it was alluded to a little bit about the tech company. The difficulty was the property has a special permit allowing it to be an art center. And the Saders gave this to the city. And as they pointed out to us in a meeting, for 12 years, we had an art center that they lost money on. And they have a family trust that at the time had a cash cow in the Middle East. When the Middle East was closed for the pandemic, the bank still wanted mortgage payments. So they looked at the zoning and found that this building, the special permit, takes away the right to have this be light fabrication. And the Saders, who I don't think there's anybody who doesn't believe they're wonderful people. I've used them, they backed up my political groups, they do things for everybody. But they needed money and they told us they were gonna pull the permit unless the city would promise and guarantee and pay 6 months in advance on a $19,000 a month rental from Center for Arts at the Armory, which is not likely for Arts to do and not likely for Somerville to do, because that's what the tech company was willing to pay. So the city, without really being ready, but having thought about it for a long time, took the building. At that point, Joe left. George Parakis deservedly got a job running Watertown. And the people who are in charge of it now, and this is just my opinion, don't really know what to do with it. So the meeting is not about bitching about anything. It's not about pointing fingers. It's explaining what we think should go forward. And that's all. We're not going to complain about all the things that have gone wrong in the 2 years. Things happen. But we have an opportunity here. As Stephanie calls it, missed opportunities. We still have them. And that's what I wanted to say.
Hello, my name is Forrest. I'm like a local musician living in Somerville. And one of the things I find missing from arts communities all over the Boston area is no space for musicians. And I'm curious because you had some models of local nonprofits around, but you guys look into information from the two that I really like in Massachusetts, like ZoomX out of East Boston and the record company. So ZoomX is one that they kind of work with the schools and they bring them in and they have like sound gear and they bring in kids, teach them how to do sound, have studios and stuff like that. And they also teach them like music classes in there. And I absolutely love that place. And I think they operate out of Fire. So they might have some information. I don't know if you guys have looked into them, but the other one is like the record company out of like South Boston area. And they're providing very affordable like rehearsal spaces. And incredibly affordable studios for like local entrepreneurs that can't afford to own a studio, but like want to do audio engineer work. And that seems like to me, if you guys could get that like third party distinguished and run that, are those some of the organizations that I would like to see in this part of the town? No, I don't like going into Boston to get cheap rehearsals, and there's no rehearsals over here. There's nothing for musicians over here. I mean, there is. There's Dead Moon Audio. I've rehearsed in their space before. They probably don't know that, but I've done that. And it's good, but like we need to support these groups. And like I think that like, third party model is the way to do it. And the city is not going to do that. And I think the nonprofit is where that should be.
I think that we've kind of entered the commentary now, so we're just gonna keep going with people talking and recording all of it, but just to your point, I mean, Dead Moon Audio is phenomenal and amazing and wonderful, and we need more of people like them, you know, in every space. And we work a lot with ZoomX, and ZoomX also has an incredible model for the way they do things. I'm very familiar with the record company, and they're also amazing. I mean, the thing is the city of Boston and Somerville and Cambridge, like the greater Boston area, there's so many amazing arts groups that need space, and we have a building that has space. I think that this is all part of the conversation that needs to happen. And so that's a big part of why the city as an owner operator of this entire building just makes no sense. There's too many arts groups that could be part of the process, you know? So I think, thank you for that. Yeah, that's important.
So do we want to go ahead?
We're just gonna go.
Yep. Should we time commentary? Do we want to do the 2 minutes? Okay, we'll kind of be keeping a loose
We'll
eye
see
on
how
the
you
time.
do.
Jen, I know you will abide by that. So the floor is yours. I think we're going to move into the basically testimonial and commentary at this point, and also take anybody from the Zoom that would like to speak. So Jen, the floor is yours.
My name is Jennifer McSweeney, and I work for Acoustic Strings in New England. Our company has been in this building for 17 years, and I've worked for the
Jen, can you
company
speak a little
for.
bit more to the mic?
Sorry. I've been, our company has been in this building for 17 years, and I've been working here for about 10 years. So before the pandemic, and I just want to give a hearty thank you for you guys giving all of this information, because you've done a lot of research. It's been very clear, and it's kind of the first time that it's all been presented very clear in any of this process. And it's really been fun watching you guys in the last couple of years since the pandemic, growing your business and all the neat things you've been doing. And I just wanted to follow up on what Forrest said, because before the pandemic, there was a lot more going on in this building. There were music teachers, there was the Arab Cultural Organization who, taught singing to kids in Arabic. I mean, there was just this rich use of even the small spaces downstairs. I'm a cello teacher myself, so I use part of our space as a studio for teaching. And I agree with everyone that this building is a miracle for the arts, and there's so much that could be done here. And even as far as rehearsal spaces, like for my, student concerts, I'd use the cafe and we'd all have a great time and the parents had a good time. When there's a performance in here, I have a direct line for the artist to come on stage, so we collaborate that way. There's many, many ways that a tenant-run model in this building could really, really work. And I've always wanted to see some of the spaces used for music rehearsals. You can rent, if you had reasonable rents by the hour and you had someone to run it, it would be wonderful. And then the spaces could really be used in a wonderful way. So I'm hopeful that it will all work out for all of us. We would love to stay. But anyway, thank you for hosting this.
Thank
you.
Hi, my name is Ellen Mylonas. I co-own Esh Circus Arts down on Park Street with my partner Roger, who's right there. I'm also a founding member of the Boston Circus Guild and of the Contemporary Circus Collective, Circus 617. I've been performing in this building since 2011 when I graduated from circus school. The Armory has been one of the only spaces that has been consistently accessible for circus arts over the years. So I want to speak specifically to the level of responsiveness and partnership that I have experienced since Stephanie and Jess have been in their role. I mean, previous executive directors have also been very responsive, but the level of partnership that we have experienced as a circus community from these folks is unparalleled with any other arts organization in the state. It's real hard to hang somebody from the ceiling and perform. You know what I mean? Like it's a tricky thing to do, right? Yeah. And while lots of spaces really, it's a battle. The level of partnership we're receiving on expanding the aerial infrastructure in this building is amazing. I am deeply grateful. I'm not going to cry about it, but I kind of want to. It would be such a huge loss, and I think everyone sitting here knows this, for Arts of the Armory to not be operating this space. Their competence is phenomenal, and their investment in the arts communities is phenomenal. That's all I want to say. I just want to say thanks. Thank you.
My name is Robert Smith, and I am a former president of the board here. I worked with when the Armory was initially started by the Zader family on the Neighborhood Advisory Council. And I also want to praise all of you. You have just done an incredible amount of work in the last couple of years. I am glad I was able to help in some way, and I will continue to help you move forward. At the same time, I want to reiterate that what has happened with the taking of the Armory was not the intention that was presented to the city council and voted on the city council. It was for the city to be responsible for the capital improvements to the building that were needed and a development of a plan for the Armory to be have reasonable rents for the arts and for it to continue to be what it has been from day one. And the other thing is, I want to say to those who are here from the city or when they hear this, that this is an opportunity to make an incredible organization make this place a reality. Clear up the confusion of the building and the organization. Make it what what the community sees this building as, make it a reality. Find a way to work together and make it a reality. As I used to say when I was on the board, the only way out is through. And I believe there is a way through.
Hi, everybody. My name is Clay. I do a lot of shows here. I work for the Figure Theater downtown, the Wilbur and the Chevalier, Bill Blumenreich. But also, I've been with the Armory from the very beginning. I started my bones in the entertainment industry at the Middle East, and I've been here with the Satyrs since the beginning and through all the management. And I have to say, the crew that's here right now, top of the line, best I do shows with all over town. Unbelievable, the production and the communication and the partnership by bringing world renowned artists here. It's my pleasure, and we always have a great time. And I actually, even though I've been here from the beginning, I learned more about what's going on with the business of the building tonight than any other time that I've been here, like since day one. So I don't know if that's maybe my bad, or it seems like certain part of the opacity of what the Somerville, let's call it the city or the establishment, about all of this stuff that was even going on. It just wasn't really up in front and in my face, and now it's in my face. And I'm worried that we won't be able to continue to bring shows here, which is like one of the best places to do shows in town. And it could all the hard work that Jess and Stephanie have done to raise money and train up a bunch of staff to do complex events, from farmers market to cooking shows sold out on Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, it's unreal what happens in this room, what happens in this building. My friends downstairs in the audio department. I mean, everybody here is just working so hard. And I literally am just coming to this meeting realizing that there's a gigantic confusion, and whatever needs to happen. I live in Boston, so I don't live in Somerville, but whatever needs to happen so that the community can all understand how important this place is, how big this place is. We've gone through maintaining and holding on to stages from very small stages to clubs being shut down every single month after the pandemic. And we need to save this stage right now. And we need to maintain the relationships with all the great partners and all the people that rent here. And yes, expand it to different business models. But I can tell you that my confidence and my vote of confidence in the organization that I was understanding was the people running this place is very, very, very high. And to have an inkling that someone else is going to take over booking the room, programming the room, and making sure there's a farmer's market here on Saturdays is going to go to somebody else blows my mind. I can't even picture it. So we need to save the stage, and we need to continue supporting the arts in Somerville and Boston and Cambridge and all over the place. And just everybody should give a round of applause to the people on stage right now maintaining how great this place is. Thank you.
Sorry, can we just pause for 1 second? So we have people on Zoom that I think have been waiting to speak as well. So I don't want them to feel like they're being ignored. So Steve, can you make that happen?
Yeah.
After tonight's meeting, please continue to share the information that you learned here tonight. Help circulate our petition educate others in your circle, let them know what's going on. And, you know, part of the petition is that you can write in. I think we have like a max of 3,000 characters, so that's quite a bit of space. And all of that will be delivered to, like I said, the mayor, the city council, the Armory Master Plan Advisory Committee, Somerville Arts Council, and the consultant. So please help us continue to get the word out. It's right on our homepage, so you can direct people there. Have I talked long enough, Steve? Okay.
So we have two questions right now from Zoom. The first one comes from Andrew B. What would the plan be for moving forward if the city does not allow this to continue? Where does the arts at the blank go from here without a venue?
Virginia, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so what happened, my understanding, the question is what happens to us if the city goes with option one?
Correct.
We don't know. How is the arts, where does the arts of the Armory go without the Armory?
We dissolve pretty much. You know,
It's-
we're in the process, actually, one of the ironies is we have an ARPA grant right now to make investments in this space. So we've even talked about, well, I guess they would buy the equipment that they've helped fund. I don't know, so, but
Yeah, but I also want to say, I mean, I think, Stephanie and I, and with the support of the board and with the staff, like, we're not gonna let that happen easily by any means. So, yeah.
yeah, I mean, even the consultant said, running the building is not a core competency of the city, and was essentially arguing against this model. So like I said, it's unfortunate that we have to have this conversation publicly, but here we are.
And this next question comes to us from Prospero Eaton.
Hi, can you hear me? Oops. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, yes, my name is Prospero Wheaton. So I am an artist with the Out of the Blue Gallery. I've been with the gallery for several years now, and we are an amazing collective. We're a very diverse group of artistic voices, and
Okay. Can you unmute yourself? I don't know if you can hear me, but.
Can you go ahead and hit your unmute button? I think you accidentally muted yourself.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having technological difficulties here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know how much of what I was saying you heard or not, but so I'm a member of the Out of the Blue Arts Collective. I've been working with the gallery for several years. I've been very excited to be a part of it, and I'm very curious to see what the place is. As for Out of the Blue artists moving forward. We've been in the building. Where the arts are part of this community, and I'm just kind of curious to see what your thoughts are on incorporating Out of the Blue into the building going forward.
Well, I mean, we're talking about our organization, our spaces, and why we're addressing this with the city in terms of us not losing our spaces. I don't think we can answer that question, so we don't oversee the building.
Right, we are independent tenants here. We each have, well, we talked about some of the issues we have. We don't currently have a use and occupancy agreement, but we are independent tenants. So I'm happy that the other arts tenants are here tonight and have had a chance to speak. And also, Adam, if you wanted to say anything at any point, please do, from Dead Moon Audio. But we've been really careful throughout this process to only speak for our organization, the Center for Arts at the Armory, and not speak on behalf of the other tenants in the building. It's frustrating and hard for us when we feel like others are speaking on behalf of us. So we've tried not to do that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jack Donahue. I run the audio tech services shop downstairs. I repair amplifiers for poor musicians. I am the former chief engineer for the Hatch Memorial Shell in Boston. Worked there many years before retirement. And one of the reasons why I retired is because of what happens when politics gets involved with programming. Okay? It may be one thing for a government entity to physically manage a building. But I think it's another thing when it comes to, programming it, bringing in events, bringing in people, all the stuff that these people do so wonderfully up here. Okay? And I just want to make a point that if you want to see what happens, because there is an option on the table for the city to, correct me, but there's an option on the table for the city to program the building. Okay, if you want to see what happens when a government agency programs an entity like this, just go down the street and look at the Hat Show. Okay, when I worked there, we had 5 events a week, all season long, all the walks, all the benefits, all the concerts, all that stuff was going on. It breaks my heart every time I drive by the place now. What this big, beautiful building on the Charles River, big, beautiful venue that has like 1 event a week, Wednesday night classical music. Please, the government is good at what they do. Programming arts and entertainment is not something that they're good at. And I just want to put that on the table. We really need to consider that. We've got something that works here. I believe there's a model under consideration that the tenants would stay and the tenants would continue to do their own programming and their own operations. If the city could support that, I think that would be a good thing. Thank you.
Hello. You guys see me for a second. I'm a little taller than everyone else here. My name is John Casella. I'm one of the event managers here at Arts the Armory. Just celebrated my 2-year anniversary on Sunday. So I've been here since before any of the new stage equipment has come in, before any of these new pipes and drapes came in. These beautiful drapes right here, up lights, anything that's here now, we were working with duct tape and a shoebox. Humble beginnings. But in the last 2 years, we've grossed over, I want to say $2 million, I think.
No.
Oh, over on something like that. I might be wrong. But
No.
made a lot of money, and we built a team here, and that's the Armory. We have a financial team, we have a marketing team, we have an events team, and we take great pride in what we do. We've had multiple events come in here, from blood drives to farmers markets to full out wrestling, WWE style wrestling. It's awesome. But to be serious here, I just want to urge the officials to not go with that first option of the own ownership. Not only because I don't want to see the art here die. I don't want to see my coworkers get laid off either, because we have been building this on here for 2 years that we take great pride in. And being an event manager and having to set up all these chairs and to make sure the lights are on, make sure there's toilet paper in the bathrooms, make sure the soap dispensers are clean, and making sure that everything looks great, for the patrons to come in and have one of the best times of their lives. That's what we're here for. That's what any musical venue is here for, is to make the patrons feel happy and see their favorite artists, And if the city's taking that away, fine. But at the same time, I don't think people should be let go of that either, because they choose number one. All the brilliant people that Jess mentioned earlier at the start of this meeting will be without jobs. These are people that need to feed their families, pay their rent. They have medical things need attended to, and all these cost money. I don't think the city's gonna give us another chance. I don't think they're gonna find us another job. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just a fact. But just want to say thank you, Jess. I just screamed to that microphone. Thank you, Jess. Let me be here. Let me be a part of this place for 2 years. Something that wasn't said about Jess White. She was for 10 years. She worked at Bay State College. She ran the entertainment department of at Bay State College for over 10 years. So, it's something to be admirable about. And that's how I got this job here. About a month after she started, she called me and wanted me to work here. And I take great respect in that. And I want to just thank Stephanie and Jess and everyone up there, all the event staff, all the bartenders, the bar managers, the finance managers, everyone here. I just want to thank you all for your work. And we just gotta keep in solidarity, as well as the tenants too. I mean, we've had a lot of tenants come in, like Dead Moons helped us with a couple of our events, major events such as audio, had some audio problems they helped us with. Same thing with acoustic strings, Jennifer. You helped us, you use your facilities when we have a little higher, more higher clientele coming in with a little more security presence, We used her room as a safe room that, obviously nothing's gonna happen, but you gotta take those precautions. So we do work with the other, people here. And, I take pride in working with everyone else here. I love helping people out. I love seeing art. I'm a musician myself. I play the bass, play the guitar. I'm not good, but I play. But, I can respect, art in any shape or the form. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I'm gonna get off the mic. It's probably been over 2 minutes, but thank you for letting me talk today.
Hi, it's Barbara Steiner again. Now I'll just make my comment for the city. And there's a thing about crisis and opportunity, and I think it's really horrible that this is happening. On the other hand, we didn't know anything about what's going on here. And this is a wonderful opportunity to bring the community into this building and get more involved with what's going on and what the assets are. You all already know how to run programming. You have incredible experts. I mean, Bob Dylan, really? That's really impressive. I don't know much about the other tenants, but I think if the city is willing to let go of the media center in Union Square, which I find absolutely appalling and cannot believe, is that fight really over? And if they're going to mess around with the arts at the Armory, and what will the town do without an arts center? I don't understand what's going on, and I want clarity and transparency from City Hall. I'm concerned about this space and will sign your petition. I'm also really concerned about the media center and maps. So something's not right in the city if we have to fight for these basic buildings and organizations that have been doing, things are working out now. You guys have expertise. You can pull this off. You survived the pandemic, the bumps happen and they're over. So whatever you need, bringing it to the community is the best possible thing you can do. Just air it out, make it open, bring it out into the open and get that, if you want people to write letters, if you need models for that, there's lots of groups to reach out to. So I applaud you, and I hope all the other tenants, get what they need too. And thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Naima Said, and I've been living in Somerville for almost 10 years. I served the community as a French teacher at Somerville High School. And a few months ago, I decided to run for Ward 5 City Councilor, Open Seat. And here I'm today with all of you. At first, I want to thank you all for engaging us in this process. I also want to thank you for all your, hard work. I want to thank all the staff, here for providing us, a space to all the community, for a space, for community gatherings, a space where we get to enjoy the arts. To me personally, this is, the place where, I run into neighbors, into former students, into, parents, and I get to catch up, with people, in the community. This is what I buy my, Christmas gifts and birthday gifts. So thank you so much. And I'm, here to support, this initiative, and, I'm sure we'll find a solution. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Gresh. As a resident here in Somerville and also someone who works in the arts field, I work at the MFA, a large institution, and want to just say I believe really deeply in independent arts organizations. And I want to really congratulate you for what an incredible job you do here. And I'm really grateful for all of the accessible, affordable, and incredibly rich and diverse programming that you bring to us. And I feel like if we, step back and think about what are the arts mean to us in general, it's all about creative expression, and we need many different people involved in planning and deciding. And you've brought so many things to the city that I think all of us have in many different ways benefited from. And so I think I'm shocked and thank you for sharing all this information. I think it's shocking that and deeply disappointing that it, took 5 months to get a meeting with the mayor and that there was no response. And I hope that these efforts now and the petition that I know we're all here will sign and many other people will at least get some responses like everyone else. I'd love clarity and transparency for what are the goals for the city? How can this be happening to take these places, the parallel of the media center and here, the center. I'm very, very happy and reassured to see multiple city councilors here. So thank you for being here and we really count on your support and thank you all for your incredible work and expertise, which I think would be incredibly difficult for a city to do on their own. So keep up the good work and we're here with you. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Hey y'all, Adam Sissel, Dead Moon Audio. Thanks to everything everybody said. Kind words are very meaningful. Thanks to Arts at the Armory for having this also. I just wanted to spell out what I think option one would mean, like in a functional sense. We would, all of us would get notice that we have to leave. So it'd be like a 4-month period where we're cleaning up stuff and leaving. It's not like we would just, I run a recording studio. It's not like we just leave everything and the city just hires like gear goes. You're looking at a dead studio, a loss of a studio for at least a year, if not longer. And we've seen so many venues and rehearsal spaces leave. That's the wrong thing. So I just thought it's worth pointing out like what that actually would mean. And you can extrapolate that example to all of us. I think we're all doing cool, innovative stuff. And I don't want to see the city save the arts by killing it. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
My name is Rachel Nadkarni. I am the Director of Economic Development for the City of Somerville. And I'm really short. I want to pick up on what Neil said. We are figuring this out. It is a community process. And figuring out what a community art center means for Somerville is hard. It is really hard. And I am so thankful for everyone in this room, everyone on the stage, for bringing their perspective to this process, because a community process is about all of us participating. It's about hearing from who is here in the room, everyone who has shared their opinions in all the other formats that have happened so far, so we can figure this out together. Where are we going? What does this mean for Somerville? And I think there's a lot that we're still figuring out for sure. And one of the things that I personally hear loud and clear about the last communications is that we need to work on stability in the interim. That is, hearing that message loud and clear is, until we figure this out as a community about what that community art center means, we've got to figure out how we look at stability in that short-term piece. So thank you all for sharing. I'm taking a lot of notes and I will keep taking notes as you all keep hearing more information.
Could I just respond? Thank you for your comment, Rachel. And just a quick response to that. I think one of our frustrations has been that we gave the city time to work on the Armory master plan for a year plus. And a lot of times it's been referenced, well, we don't want any preconceived notions. We want to imagine what this would be like. But the reality is that you have successful arts tenants here. You cannot start from scratch. You should be engaging us as the people that you want to continue programming this building. And so I think we're asking the city to really reconsider your process and who you're talking to, who are your stakeholders, because it's really about the people in this room and also the arts tenants in this building that you really need to be engaging and learning from, because we carry with us a 20-year history of this organization and lessons learned, what has worked and what hasn't worked. And that needs to, your process, the Armory Master Plan process, has not benefited from that. You were talking about ideas up in the sky and what people might like to see. What people might want to see is largely what exists here. How do we make it better together? And how do you rely on our expertise to take this to the next step? So we've tried to outline some next steps that we would like to see. That's what's in our petition, and I hope that you will be open to hearing that. So.
I also just want to add one quick thing as well, because, and I appreciate you being here and listening to what everyone has to say. I think that that's wonderful. I think that one of the frustrating parts for all of us in this process over the last year plus, especially with the consultants and listening to, what can the Armory be? Like, what kind of art center can the Armory be? And we're like, our Armory already is, it has been, like, we've already existed. Why haven't you paid attention to that at all? Like, that has been infuriating. And in this process is like, don't start from scratch. Like, look at what already has grown and what can even get better. And I think that that's what we want to start seeing. Like, and don't ignore the history and act like this is the first time it's been thought of. That's a big part of the missing piece here.
So I'm going to speak now. I'm Beatriz Gomez Marcat. I'm counselor, Ward 5 counselor. Sorry, I forgot my title. I want to first talk and reinforce the importance of the arts in a quote unquote progressive community. And I want to say, this is where I listen to Ile. Ile is my sister and I, our favorite artist. Ile and Edie Queen, who's a reggaetonera, have this very powerful song that I always listen to every time I'm going to go to council. It's very empowering, and they brought that musician here. Like, I was in tears, like Puerto Rican artist in Somerville. That was amazing. And that's why the arts are so important to me. My sister is also an artist and a filmmaker. I grew up in an art institute where local artists would teach us, amazing artists who went to Biennale. So it's like amazing. That aside, that's not my story. I want to thank this group for the great diversity that they bring in, and that's very important to me. But I want to be very transparent. I was in the planning committee. I was the city council representative. I want to tell you what I saw and experienced. I think Jess and Stephanie were correct in that we had these visioning sessions. What would you imagine? What would you like? Somewhere in the middle there, I'm going to speak very sincerely. I also manage projects, so I make buildings happen, and we have to program them and think. I had a little bit of a frustration because we're talking visions, and we weren't talking about operational models. We weren't talking about financial models. How are we going to finance this? And we weren't talking about what can the building do. So I kept on asking, well, am I going to turn this into a glass blowing, studio? Or it is a performance hall and it's working. And I do see a need for a performance. We also have the strings instruments. Thank you. I think you provided the giant bass that's in my living room for my son. And he's getting taller. I think he's getting a full size now. I didn't do the flute. But I want to just make sure that process, and I think the administration has talked to me. They called me in on Monday because I think at the Zoom meeting, you could see my frustration, and they said, well, what are your thoughts? So I think they're listening and they want to reconsider. I want to tell you the 5 options. If everybody's like, where did these options? That was the first time I saw a model. They were shown. Nobody in the committee voted for option 1 versus 2. That was a decision. Full transparency. I'm not sure where it came from.
I think it was a mistake. And I want to say something very important. I sat in many, many planning meetings, and I've learned more today about what could happen with this building in 2 hours by listening to the community and the experts, the artists, the people who run this. As a project manager, I will always bring, I don't design an operating room without the person who cleans it, the nurse, the electrician, all of those folks. So I think it's very important that we bring everybody here. And I thank you, Rachel, for recognizing that we have to provide stability for our tenants. Arts, I know very well from my sister, it's not a profitable business. We're always helping her out. And we want to be able to, promote our arts, and it's very important for some of us culturally as well. I want to emphasize the importance, even if you're, a heavy metal person, okay? There are different cultures out there, and they're all welcome. So that's full transparency, my experience. If you want to ask me questions or reach out, please. And I hope in my end of my term, we can really move this forward, and I will stay involved in the community, but I wanted to be very transparent on what has gone on. And sorry if I spoke more than 2 minutes, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think after Flora, we're gonna take a comment by Zoom and.
And then we're gonna wrap up like probably 2 more comments.
Yeah, so if anybody else wants to make a comment, please let it be known. Maybe you could come to like the front rows here. And let's hear from Flora and then go to the Zoom participant. Okay.
Hi, I'm Flora. I'm the bar manager here as of about 6 months ago. And I just want to express my appreciation of Center for Arts at the Armory and everyone in this building. It feels like a community space to me. I first entered the building for the farmers market during COVID. I got really into going to farmers markets, and I got so excited to come here every week. Then became curious about who else is in this building, and I saw Angela Leidig, who is a violin teacher at the end of the hall. I started taking lessons from her. And then I walked into acoustic strings and started renting a violin, which eventually I'll pay off. I think I'll own it in another 1.5 years. And then when I decided I had enough of my job in higher education, I thought, well, what's going on at the Armory? Like, what jobs are there for me? And I found an open bartending position, started tending the bar, and just got exposed to all the amazing events that are happening here. My first shift was a circus performance. Since then I've worked shifts with Bill Frisell and all of the other amazing artists that have been here, Sweet Honey in the Rock, everyone else that was mentioned. I've been at most of those shows, and it's just been such an amazing experience for me to be part of this organization and part of this community. It really feels like such a welcoming and warm space. Everyone that I work with is incredible and hardworking. As Jess and Stephanie said, everyone just does their jobs really well, which is such a nice, welcome change of pace from where I was before, even though it's such a prestigious institution. So thank you to Jess and Stephanie, everyone else that works here. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to be here on the team, and I hope to be here for a while longer. Thanks.
So let's see.
Do the Zoom.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna go to the Zoom,
Yeah.
and then we'll come back and wrap it up with those who still want to speak. So Virginia?
Is someone still on the Zoom?
I'm here. My name is Jen Harrington. I live up the street. I've been following this story for quite a while, and I've been very confused. I attended 2 of the city meetings, one in person and the Zoom. I did not participate in either because I had concerns and I was confused. And I'd just like to thank you for the clarity that I've gotten tonight. It's been very informative. I have a better sense of what's going on, and I also have trust that the people in the building right now are the people that we need to keep this the endearing, super cute, magical place it is at this moment. And then so thank you for everybody's work. I know it's a huge team, and I really appreciate it. And last, thank you so much for hosting Festival. I can't wait to go next month. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
See, Councilor Burnley, did you want to say something?
Yes, just very briefly. Firstly, and again, everyone's saying this, hi Jen. Oh, by the way. Thank you so much for the diversity of content, entertainment and arts you put on. I have so many friends who've come here for Globe, Boston League of Women Wrestlers, for Shakespearean queer plays I get put on in this space. So many musical events, including the after party for Honk. You know, just great things happen in this space. And I'm just gonna say right now, the council has very little involvement in this process, but if a lease does come to us, that is a Model 1 lease, I'm gonna vote against it. And I just wanna say that right now on the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Jack Perenick. I am running to represent this ward in the city council, and I just want to echo two things. One, when we had that city meeting, Stephanie, I was really grateful for you to making the point that when the city made their presentation, there was a presentation that had a model that had 5 proposals on it, like Councilor Gomez-Molcott mentioned, and we came back with 2. And so what's super clear to me is that a mistake was made at some point. What we need to come back for this process is something that includes a third-party operator in at least one proposal. And I wanted to make the same commitment that Councilor Burnley made, that if this comes before the council, I will not vote yes on anything that is city-operated without that third-party operator. We need the Center for Arts at the Armory to make the Armory a success. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Moya. First, I live in Somerville, literally down the street. I work here as an event staff. I've been here for a little over a year now. And I am also an artist. I am a professional opera singer. So do with that what you will. I'm not singing for you tonight. I just first off want to sing my praises to everyone here. I would not be here if Jonathan and Jess did not decide that like, oh, you can work event staff. Cool, you're hired. So I've just been doing the chairs, as John said, the chairs, the bathrooms, and all of that. And through doing all of that, I have seen the variety. That is what has kept me here. That's what I left retail for this. So, amen. And the variety, I cannot imagine what a loss for this community it would be if the city decided this is our place now. Because I can go from a gala to like a children's musical to literally whatever from one day to the next. And it just brings in so many different people from all over New England, not just like Mass or Boston. Like I've seen people come up from New York or Connecticut for concerts, and they're all just here to have the time of their lives and to partake in the arts. And I think this place would just, it would benefit from that third-party ownership. And I personally think that third parties should be the Center for the Arts at the Armory, but I'm very biased. So yeah, I'm losing my train of thought, so I'm just gonna stop.
Thanks.
Hey y'all, my name is Ryan DeLello. It's incredibly unfitting that the journalist in the room gets the last word. But I've been following this story for a while, and it's been really confusing. It's been fulfilling because I've gotten to meet so many wonderful people, that I'm an artist as well, share my own interests, but are also so impassioned around this. And I just want to say that it's absolutely imperative that the city stays on documenting every single step of this process. I annoy a lot of folks on that information out there. It's incredibly encouraging that so many folks here tonight have gotten some clarity, some incremental growth just in their understanding, and feel motivated to, make some noise and get this building realized in the way that they hope. But that will only happen if the city really follows through in practice what it is claiming to be a very democratic approach. Because at the end of the day, we would all prefer an experienced party, be it maybe interested, over an inexperienced party. And the differentiator there is going to be putting information out there, keeping that summer vision page up to date, and justifying every single decision that the city makes. Thanks.
Counselor Wilson, if you want to say anything? And then Denise, and then we'll end. Is that okay? Okay.
Thanks. I was going to speak and then it went a little late. First of all, I just want to say very envious of the hybrid meeting setup in here. Is anyone? Oh, thanks. Tall people problems. Thank you so much. As anyone who's had to suffer through a city council meeting with our hybrid setup could tell you, kudos to the folks back there who made that happen. I don't know if you all were paying attention at the beginning when the list of everyone it takes to make everything happen here was read, but hearing what we've heard subsequently about the city potentially looking to come in and operate this, that was a long list of people. We're talking about a huge number of people the city would need to be replacing. That gives me a lot of trepidation about that plan. I will close just by telling you, as I sat here, I've reminisced about all the things I've done in this building over the years. Everything from Knucklebones playgroup. I didn't make a list, it was that long. Knucklebones playgroups here in this room when my kids were little, winter farmers markets, holiday markets in here, maker markets, fall fest, Viking dinner in this room, which was amazing. I've run Summerville Youth Soccer coaches meetings up on that stage, and board meetings in the basement. Friends of Healy ran events in the cafe. I've done yoga upstairs. I attended the Evicted exhibit here. Too many shows to mention, including, I'm excited to go see the Dirty Projectors here on September 6th, and just countless private events. So yeah, thank you so much for turning out tonight. It's great to hear your voices, and I really hope that they are heard. Thanks.
Jonathan, can you help? Okay, okay. Actually, you had a great approach there. You had it all under control.
Yeah. Take it to you. Jonathan, why don't you just take the mic out of the clip? There we go.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, problem solving in action.
Yeah.
So I am very grateful for this open and highly democratic process that you have run as a private party. Oh yeah, my name is Denise Provo. I used to work for the city of Somerville. I have worked in other government entities. I'm a lawyer. I used to practice law anyway. So I really admire the process and this public forum that you've created, which is in astonishing contrast to the city's secretive processes. And yeah, and I attended all of the meetings that the consultants hosted, and I thought they were dismal. The organization of them, the information that was shared, that evidently they didn't keep any of the information that, we wrote on stickies and stuff. they told us from this stage that when there were complaints about inadequate representation, that we needed to organize artists and bring them in. Everything was topsy-turvy, but that's not what I came to speak about. Well, I'm very grateful to hear the counselors say that they would vote against a lease. By then it will be too late. If this process moves forward as planned and as, you know, it seems juggernaut inevitable, there will be a decision, who knows by whom, to make the city the owner and operator. At that point, the tenants will, as we've heard, have to pack up and leave, discontinue their businesses, probably not find other spaces, which happened to places that left early in the post eminent domain period, when the tenants all got letters saying, oh, you have to leave by the end of the year. And some people took that literally and left by the end of the year and had no place to go. And we have lost those segments of the arts community that was in this building already, long ago. But say the city chooses option one, the businesses are evicted, basically. And then the city goes to the council and says, you know, they conduct their, you know, their own secret process to pick tenants. And they go and say to the council, you have to approve these leases because the building's empty and we can't afford the building and we're losing money. And this is an emergency and you need to vote tonight. Because I have been through meetings like that. And I just want everybody to understand the timeline and how decisions that may have been made already are just going to play out over time. And meanwhile, you're here, I discover, without any kind of agreement with the city, just hanging on a thread, not knowing what that is so unfair to you. It's unfair to everybody in the arts community and to everybody in the city who is indebted to you and the other tenants for the nourishment that you have provided to this city. Because we never had anything like this before, and we can't lose this wonderful part of this is the soul of the city here. This is the soul of and of course the media center too. And you are, you know, you're sort of the bookends of culture in this city. So I've already spoken too long already. Who gets this next, or do we read?
Thank you. You can just see it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Denise. And if that were to pass, which I don't think it will, but we would be calling all of you and asking for you to bring 10 of your friends, and we will march between this building and City Hall back and forth until they change their mind. We're gonna keep on it and keep working on this and do what we said we would do and deliver all of the material that's been gathered tonight. The recording, the petition is going to be open for 1 month till September 10th. So please help us circulate it. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate your support, and let's keep making great art. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.